Okay, so now let's explain briefly the purposes of creating the Public Sector Accounting Standards Board or PSASB. So primarily, PSASB was created to formulate and implement public sector accounting standards. So ito yung mga accounting standards that are actually directly affecting the public sector and establish linkages with international bodies, professional organizations, and academe on accounting-related fields and financial management. So, itong PSASB shall assist the Commission in formulating and implementing the PPSAS or PPSAS, Public Sector Accounting Standards. So, therefore, itong PSASB, sila itong the board that will formulate and implement the accounting standards that will be applicable to the public sector. So, this is these are the standards that will be followed by the government agencies. Okay? Okay, so again, what are these PPSAS? So, as you can remember, we have discussed in financial accounting the accounting standards that we'll be using for business entities. We call them the Philippine Financial Reporting Standards, the PFRS, or the Philippine Accounting Standards, PAS, which are actually our set of GAAP applicable in the Philippines. So, PFRS and PAS are applicable to business entities. So for government entities, we are actually using the Philippine Public Sector Accounting Standards. Okay? So what are the processes of developing these standards? So these are the standards. So first, we consider what are the applicable, what are the applicable IPSAS or the International Public Sector Accounting Standards that can be appropriate in the Philippine setting. So, tinitingnan kung ano yung pwedeng gawin in the Philippine setting. Second is we prepare exposure draft. Okay? So, itong mga exposure draft, ito yung mga proposed PPSAS, na for comment by COA officials and auditors, finance personnel, oversight agencies, professional organizations, and even in the academe, for ano yung mga possible, ano yung mga idagdag, ano yung mga insights, ano yung mga i-delete, ano yung hindi applicable. So, tinitingnan ito yung mga comments on the exposure draft and modify if appropriate. Next, fundamental issues. So, yun, first, tinitingnan ko applicable ba? Second, exposure, and then fundamental issues. So, kung may fundamental issues na conflict sa Philippine laws, rules, and regulations, so tinitingnan ito as a fundamental issue. So, tinitingnan dito kung may accounting principle ba or disclosure requirement na kailangan i-change. Next is the statutory authority. So, pag yung international standard is nag-deviate sa Philippine regulatory or legislative environment natin, yung gagamitin natin is yung Philippine Application Guidance. So, kung ano yung tinatawag nating PAG, sa mga So, you can actually read more on PPSAS and PAG. So, PAG, ito yung ginagamit natin sa mga, may mga nagde-deviate, sa Philippine laws. Fifth is the disclosure requirements. So, disclosure requirements may be amended if the amendments are significant, for improving fair presentation of the matter. So, of course, in PPSAS, we are presenting also financial statements. We are summarizing information, So, the same disclosure requirements. So, tinitingnan kung significant ba ito. PPSAS numbering. So, actually, PPSAS numbering, dapat the same number lang siya sa IPSAS. So, it's the same with PFRS, the same lang din siya sa IFRS. So the same, in the same manner. So, kung IFRS 3 pertains to this, so PFRS 3 also pertains to that particular account or financial statement item. So, So, it's the same with PPSAS. Kung ano yung sa IPSAS, International, yun lang din yung number sa PPSAS. So, kung dinidevelop na yung PPSAS but there is no yet IPSAS equivalent, ina-assign siya ng temporary number, no, a series of PPSAS starting with 101. Pero pag may ma-issue na subsequently na equivalent standard sa IPSAS, so yung equivalent naman ng number ng IPSAS yung gagamitin natin sa PPSAS. Next, we have financial reporting issues not dealt with by IPSAS. So, pag wala talaga, okay, researches were done, a discussion document prepared based on importante hindi conflict sa Philippine laws. Okay? So, yun yung importante because there are some researches, especially if you check in PIDS, no? Philippine, I forgot, PIDS, but it's all about the researches on Philippine okay, so submission of draft to PSASB for consideration ng COA. So, the PSASB, the board now may decide to re-expose a proposed PPSAS. So, the last, if considered appropriate, yung focus group discussions will be held to obtain further opinions on issues identified by the exposure process. So, itong actually focus group discussion, so ito yung, dito na nag-exchange ng insights, yung mga representative from various authorities like the national government sector, the NGS, the auditors, the academ. So, sila magdi-discuss sila, mag-change insights sila so that you can decide on the final PPSAS. Okay? So, yan. So, now let's discuss the government offices primarily charged with accounting responsibility. So, yung offices charged with accounting responsibility are, first, COA, second, the DBM, third, the Bureau of Treasury, and of course, the government agencies. So, COA, ano yung ginagawa ng COA? So, COA keeps the general accounts of the government, no? Of course. So, tayo yung, the COA is actually check and balance. Actually, yun yung purpose niya. But now, more of likely a friendly arm, no? Yung ginagawa ngayon COA is a friendly arm so that the government agency can achieve its objective and implement its projects, no? So, unlike dati na, COA really serves as the investigative eye, so palaging naghahanap ng mali. So, now, the COA approach is on becoming a support arm, no? For the government agency to really meet its objectives. So, second na gagawin niya, promulgate accounting rules and regulation. And then, submit to the President and Congress yung annual report of the government, its subdivisions, agencies, and instrumentalities, including GOCCs. So, of course, COA has the exclusive authority. So, siya lang ang may authority to define the scope of its audit and examination. So, no one can dictate kung ano lang yung pwede niyang tingnan, ano yung ano. So, COA shall define. Siya lang yung exclusive authority. Ano yung gagamitin na techniques and method, ano yung mga accounting and auditing rules and regulations, including the prevention and disallowances of some of other expenses. So, ito yung mga expenditures na dinidisallow, piniprevent ng COA. We have illegal, irregular, unnecessary, excessive, extravagant, unconscionable, and uses of government funds and properties. So, pursuant to the COA, DBM, and Department of Finance Joint Circular, UACS, yung UACS natin, the Unified Account Code Structure, yung consistency of account classification and coding structure shall be the responsibility of the COA. So, dapat consistent yung account classification and yung coding structure. So, later on, when we discuss the UACS, we will see the different account classifications, the same account classification, whether it is an asset, whether it is a liability, whether it's a revenue, whether it is an expense. So, ganun lang din. And the coding structures of each. So, it's basically purely the same lang. Procedural lang naman yung government accounting. So for your assignment, so I have discussed a while ago, ito yung mga illegal, irregular, excessive. So for your assignment, research and explain the following. What are illegal expenditures? What are irregular expenditures? What are unnecessary expenditures? What are excessive? What are extravagant? What are unconscionable? And what are the uses of government funds and properties? So you can easily research this online, no? So my aim is for you to just dig in just a bit deeper in each of these expenditures. So just give at least 5 examples of each and prepare a PowerPoint audio lecture on this activity. Okay? So next in line, the DBM. So DBM will be responsible for the formulation and implementation of the national budget with the goal of attaining our national socio-economic plans and objectives. So yung DBM, no, shall be responsible to the efficient and sound utilization of government funds and revenue. So that's why we submit our budget to the DBM, and likewise the DBM, naghihintay tayo ng budget from the DBM. Okay, so DBM will formulate and implement the national budget. So later on, we will discuss, all about the national budget. So, and furthermore, as provided by Joint Circular, the UACs, dito sa UACs natin, yung validation and assignment of new codes for funding source organization, sub-object codes for expenditure, shall be the sole responsibility of DBM. Kasali na din dito yung validation and assignment of new program. So, yung project codes shall be decided jointly by the agency and the DBM. Okay? So, yun. So next we have the Bureau of Treasury. So Bureau of Treasury is just one of operating bureau of the Department of Finance. So Bureau of Treasury is authorized to receive and keep national funds, manage and control the disbursements, and of course, second, maintain accounts of financial transactions of all national government offices, agencies, and instrumentalities. So pangatlo ito, Bureau of Treasury. So, itong Bureau of Treasury nagko-control at saka nagmo-monitor ng tinatawag nating Notice of Cash Allocation, NCA, as released by the DBM, as well as the bank transfers it makes in replenishing its MDS or Modified Disbursement System accounts. So, si Bureau of Treasury yung nagmo-monitor ng NCA natin. Okay? So, under naman the Joint Circular sa UACs, yung consistency of accounts classification and coding standards with the Government Finance Statistics, GFS, shall be the responsibility of Department of Finance - Bureau of. And last but not the least, the national government agencies. So, ano ito? Ito yung mga Department of Education, Department of Interior, Department of Transportation, so mga ganon. Bureaus, offices, and other instrumentalities of national government, including the Congress, judiciary, and constitutional bodies, state colleges and universities. So tayo, MSU as a state college and university is a national government agency, and other self-contained institution and hospitals. Okay? So, meron silang accounting unit, division, department. So, ibig sabihin, ang dami-dami. There are many opportunity for you when you will become certified accountants, certified public accountants soon, inshallah. So, ang dami kasi each shall be required. Dapat merong accounting unit. Of course, dapat yung mga personnel doon are licensed accountants. Okay? So, the accounting personnel shall maintain and keep the current accounts of the agency, provide advice on financial condition status, and to develop and conduct procedures designed to meet the needs of management. So, of course, magko-comply yung accounting personnel sa reporting requirements ng COA, DOF, and DBM. Okay, so thank you for listening. So please submit your activity, the PowerPoint slide, preferably before the end of the day. So we also have a quiz as posted in your classwork. So please submit. It is just a trivia quiz, no? So just feel free to browse the internet for some trivias. Okay, so thank you for listening, and please take note of your assignment on budget cycle that will be submitted next meeting. So, Assalamualaikum.